So let's bring in CBS 13 political analyst Gary Dietrich. Always good to see you, Gary. What a day to talk about a lot of different things.
Right.
So Newsom was quick to do the blame game, the Trump slump.
Yeah, he called it the
Surprise,
Trump slump.
surprise.
I listened to all 2 hours of him at the podium, by the way.
Okay.
It was a long news conference.
Yeah, and then he said the California is under attack. Is he exaggerating? Has he got something to back
Well,
that
you
up?
know, but these guys go back and forth. That's politics, Tony, right? I mean, you got to blame somebody, especially when you got a $12 billion deficit you're facing. But here's the bottom line. California's income structure, we don't have time to detail it, but most of our tax revenue comes from the top earners. Now, most of their tax revenues come from capital gains. So here's the deal. He's blaming Trump because of the so-called tariff cuts that caused the stock market drop. However, S&P just this week got back to the exact same level it was on the so-called Liberation Day. So might be good news. Some of this $12 billion deficit may go away if indeed those revenues, like we're seeing this week with the stock market, rise back to the levels they were, say, 6 months ago.
Right. But I'm sure, though, with the tariff uncertainty, that there's a lot of trying to plan ahead and trying to make do.
Yeah,
all right,
sure.
let's talk about this one, too. A sigh of relief from the University of California. Instead of that 8% budget cut, the state will now only issue a 3% reduction to the system's funds. Now, on the flip side, though, K through 12 taking a hit, losing $4.6 billion in funds for students originally promised in the January budget. All right, so what's the impact? We can only imagine to students and to all of the schools out there.
Yeah.
We know that the California Teachers Association is already planning to have a rally this weekend because of all the federal cuts.
Yeah. Well, you hit on something I think really, really important, Marley, and that is this budget is going to be completely dependent on what ends up happening in Washington. And the House committee just passed the president's tax plan out of committee today. Why is that such a big deal? Because they're proposing hundreds of billions of dollars in Medicaid cuts. That could affect what the governor's talking about in terms of his reductions substantially. And what you mentioned too, Marley, education as well. So to be really honest, guys, this is a budget in the works. This thing may well be reopened, and this isn't unprecedented during the fiscal year next year, based on what happens in Washington in the next few months.
So many moving parts. Okay, let's talk cap and trade. On the surface, you yawn, you say cap and what? But the governor is extending it another 15 years. I know that there are a lot of oil companies, refineries who are bailing. How will carbon-emitting industries react? They're already leaving? I mean, is this going to make things worse?
It doesn't make it any better for them, Tony. And that's a real problem. There has been talk in the last week about $8 a gallon gasoline in California. If what people are proposing in terms of tax increases in California, refinery closures, as you mentioned, Tony. I mean, this is a real big problem. And the cap and trade thing, he wants to use some of that money, for example, to backfill for CAL FIRE. That's part of the plan for this coming fiscal year. But it is a problem, guys. I mean, I think refinery capacity, California usage of gasoline, especially with now it looks like not the support we've had in the past from the feds on buying electric cars. I mean, another thing that's really up in the air.
Yeah, but it would also help fund the rail project too, right? Which has been such a controversy.
Said there's going to be $1 billion for high-speed rail. You know, I'm just waiting for 18 months. We have a new governor, whoever that is. Keeping this thing on track, and that is a pun intended, is going to be a tough slog. The feds have already said no more money for high-speed rail.
Trump's a big fan.
Yeah, right.
Right. Yeah, you know it. All right. So let's once again digging into that, dodging that big question. Will he run for president?
We're not going to dodge it, but I want to give you guys the shortest answer.
Okay.
Because the question was, is Gavin Newsom, or when is he going to run for president? I'll give you a 3-letter answer now.
Oh,
He's
let's hear
already
what
Been accused of being a pragmatist for 20 plus years. And I think I'm being accused of that again.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we've already seen him out there and getting in the spotlight.
Okay, you want me to
right?
throw the gauntlet down? We're going to have a former vice president running for governor. I think that's almost a certainty with Kamala Harris. And then we're going to have our current governor running for president. I mean, that's where we are.
How many different ways can we ask the question? How many different ways can he answer it? I mean, everyone, pretty much knows the writing's on the wall.
As we were talking in the newsroom, the tour bus is probably already wrapped, people. That's where we are right now.
Yeah, we'll better fill the tank up now with gas at $8 a gallon.
It might be an electric bus. We'll see.
Oh,
that's true.
Yeah.
That could be a problem in Kansas, Toto.
Well, time for you to get off the bus, Gus.
Yeah.
But we'll see you next time.
Okay.
Thanks for coming in.